it's me, Miss Peggy, and I'm here teaching my Young Scientist class. Young Scientists, first of all, I want to talk to your parents, but you can listen also. What I want to do is explain our leaf book. You got a book that looked kind of like maybe like these pages here where you had rubbed some leaves, and then on the back there were some blank pages. Afterwards, after our leaf rubbings, I think I gave you some blank pages too. And what I did, and what you can do is, this kind of makes a neat project for while you're at home trying to figure out what to do. I know y'all are homeschoolers, so you weren't like the public school kids not knowing what to do or whatever, but you have your own agenda for school. But to finish out our science year, what I had intended was I had these, they're like stencils. Here they are. Stencils of different leaves, which they don't show up all that great right here, but whenever you put them under the paper and you rub on them, they make leaf pictures. And so we were going to do the leaf stencils. We did some, and I was going to do some more at the end of the unit, but of course we didn't get back to it. Now, if you want to purchase these, your parents need to text me, and I'll tell you where to get them. Or you can look yourself. It's Life 365. No, Learn 365, and it's part of Oriental Trading. It's their science department for teachers. So anyway, you can get these if you like. I always like to have stencils, and I teach the class every year, so that's what we do. But if you don't want to do that, that's not a requirement. So what they would do is they put the stencil under it and they rub it with a crayon. We did several, and you have some. And then we also have some blank pages at the end. And what you can do is make a title page like this, my leaf book, and then line up. I use a 3-hole puncher to punch the holes in it. And so then you'll have your leaf book. Now, if you don't want to do a rubbing, if you want to actually keep the leaves, you can do that too. When my kids were younger, they did this book here. And by the way, this is a cool book that you might want to some year get called My Nature Journal. And I got it off of a homeschool website. I think my light just went out. Anyway, is it okay? Okay. Anyway, so what my kids did was they took them and taped them in the different leaves. Now this is a younger kid, so they just picked leaves that they liked. But an older kid, you might make them classify them, the kind of plant that it is, and name it. The more things you memorize when you're young as a child, the more you'll remember them when you're older. The things we learn when we're older, we tend to forget. But if you learn scripture or the planets in order or whatever, my daughter made this, and she basically taped in some leaves, and all we had that day evidently was blue painter's tape, or maybe she liked that kind, I don't know. Anyway, so you can put them in there. But in this book also, you're welcome to do that on the blank pages at the back. So what I suggest you do is make a cover for it, and it can be as elaborate or boring as you want it to be, and add in your pages of the leaf rubbings. And I know some of you just have 1 or 2. You can use actual leaves, but in the spring it's not very good that way because they're wet, and when you put them under there, they just don't. They're too moist to make the very defined lines. If you do this in the fall, you'll find a ton of them, and some people even iron them, and there's all kinds of ways to do it. You can look for YouTube videos on it if you want. But anyway, so what I'm going to do is just tie this up, and I'll make my little leaf book, and then I can have the different types of leaves and go back and look at them. And what we want to do is learn about the specific parts of the leaves. Leaves have veins, so that's important. I'm going to tie these off here, or I'll tie just the top and the bottom. Anyway, and you can do that. And if you have younger kids, they might like to do this too. Mom and Dad can help them out with it. And today, for some reason, I can't tie, probably because I'm being filmed. So anyway, it's okay. So we're going to do this, and it'll make just a little neat book. And if you want to do it fancier with a little metal, those things that hold hole punches together. Anyway, so you can do this. And then next, what we're going to do is we're going to plant our sequoia tree. Now, I want to tell you about the leaves first. All plants have some form of leaf. Now, you may not think that. If you think about like a cactus, it doesn't really look like it has leaves, but or a pine tree. I don't have a cactus here, but I do have a pine tree section here that we pulled off. These are pine needles, but if you look at them, the pine needle is actually the same thing as a leaf. It's just a very long, thin, leaf. But anyway, what the leaf does, this is what I wanted to read to you from this book all about leaves, is that they make food for the plant because they take in the sunlight, and the sunlight actually causes the stuff inside of here causes causes the plant to withdraw energy from it. So it's kind of like food. It gets a weird kind of food from sunlight, and it's called photosynthesis. It's a complex word and more to look into when you get older. But anyway, the idea is that if a plant doesn't have leaves, it is not capable of getting the nutrition down into it. So that's very important too whenever you go to plant your tree. Now, as you can tell, our trees, they have leaves, so that's a plus. But if you ever go to cut down a tree, in your yard or something, don't cut all the leaves off. Whenever you do, what will happen is then it can't receive any more nutrition. Some trees are deciduous, which means that in the fall and winter, they don't exactly die, but what they do is they just kind of take all the nutrition in and kind of hang out like a bear is sort of, hibernating? Kind of like that. But anyway, then whenever it's spring again, and you can see that now that it is spring, you'll see little buds on trees where they're all coming out. But a tree has to have a means or a way to withdraw energy from the sun, and it has to have leaves in order to do that. So what we're going to do now, this you can do as an assignment. You can add as many leaves to it as you want. So I want you to know that a leaf book is a neat thing to look into. Different types of leaves are important to know. Of course, the one you want to never touch is the poison ivy, the poison oak, poison sumac, because those three are dangerous, and if you get them on you, you can break out, terribly itchy. It's a horrible thing. So anyway, but you want to go ahead and make yourself a leaf book so you can finish that with the ones that you have. Then also this week, because remember, I got your sequoia trees, and y'all got them. Now I'm going to plant 2 sequoia trees because that's how many I had left, and so I'll plant them here. Now the sequoia is the tallest tree in existence on Earth. So it's a really, really big tree. Now, I sent your parents a note like this. I probably gave it to them as an email. And it says the kind of specific fertilizer that you're going to need for it. But right now, since most ordinary businesses are closed down, I'm not finding any fertilizer, and I'm not going to purchase any online. So I'm sorry, but if you can find that, that's great. If you want to send me a link about that, of where to get the fertilizer, I'll do it. But anyway, the deal is, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to plant them in regular potting soil. And then I will try to add fertilizer whenever things are less crazy and it's not, our town isn't on lockdown or whatever. So anyway, I just fill up a pot. Now this is important with these. With the sequoia tree, you cannot have a little plate to put this on because the sequoia needs all of that moisture that's in there. So these trees are from the Northwest, and it's very moist there. Rains a lot. And so because of that, they like the water, they hold it in. And so you don't want one of those little plates that look so pretty, underneath it, because then the water will go out, and then the plant can't get all the moisture it needs. So I got these at Walmart. I think they were like a little less than $1, like 95 cents or something. So anyway, we're going to put the potting soil in. So this is fun. Now, this is not the potting soil in a baggie that I gave you. This is whatever potting soil you want. That potting soil in a baggie is for next week's planting. If you want to use it, that's fine, but you'll have to get more potting soil than for that. And so this is specific to the tree. The reason why I didn't give you that is, first of all, what it needs is fertilizer, which I don't have. And second of all, since it's a tree, you might actually want to put it in the ground. Now I'm putting mine in pots right now because it's easier to show you on here. But eventually, if I can get them to grow, I'll move them out onto my property outside. But it's easier to film in here. So anyway, and I'll start them out indoors. If my cats don't eat them, they'll live. So anyway, so I dump in enough soil, and I have a little bit below it. Then I put in the tree, which, as you can tell, its root system is just about as tall as the tree, because when a tree has roots, all the roots are connected. They're getting their nutrition from these tiny, tiny, tiny leaves, or in this case, needles. But anyway, and so then you will always have in the tree, in the ground, the parts you don't see, is almost as big, or it's usually as big, but in a different shape than the top part of the tree. So this is the only time in your life you can hold a sequoia tree in your hand when they're little, because if you were to go to Northern California, the sequoia trees are huge. They're amazing, and they can live to be 2,000 plus years old. So very interesting. The tallest one is called the General Sherman. It's a huge, huge tree, and people often take their pictures with it there. I've never been there. I would love to go see it. But anyway, so what I do is I take out the potting soil and I dump it in here, and I sort of spread it around my little tree roots, and I give it some room underneath. There's some room underneath here so that it can grow further, right? Because if it was on the very bottom, that wouldn't work. And when I fill up the dirt, I'm going to fill it up just as high as this dirt here is, and that's all. And I'm going to get it wet. I have some water over here. scoop out my dirt. I'm going to plant my 2 trees. And I'm doing that this week so you can see it, and you're welcome to do that. Now, when you plant them, don't plant them next to something else because they're going to get really big and they're going to take up a lot of space. So you don't want to have them, sitting right next to each other. But I think it's funny to start a really tiny pot has a really giant tree in it. So, and eventually I will move it out, and I'll also get that kind of fertilizer so it won't die off. I don't know that they can grow here, but I think it's worth a try. East Texas has a lot of rain in it, so we have that going for us. I don't know if, they'll ever get as big, but it's fun to try it. And if you're going to plant a tree, why not shoot for the stars and get the big one, right? So here it is. So I'm setting this one down. As you see, leave a little space for it to grow some more underneath. And then I set it here, and then I dump the rest of this dirt on it. Now, this potting soil. Now I have a second thing of potting soil because I thought I was going to run out, which I did. So, anyway. So the sequoia trees have been around since the time that Jesus walked on the earth. So that's pretty awesome. And I know that we studied them, and then I ordered these seedlings. When a tree is little, they call it a seedling, a beginning. And it's different from the seed in that it's already started being a tree, so it makes it a little bit easier to grow. So a seedling is what you're actually getting when you get a tiny tree. So I think they look awesome. I love the sequoias. I've only ever seen them, in videos and stuff, but they're pretty cool. And then I'm going to pour some water in. So this is just water, got it from the tap. I'm going to dump it in here. Just keep it moist. I'm not going to make it soggy, but just, moist enough that it has some water. And the soil itself is kind of moist anyway, so there we go. And I will just check it regularly to make sure that it has moisture. And then also I want it to have sunlight. Now, for right now, I'm going to set mine outside because for some reason my outside cats won't eat them, but my inside cats will. I don't know why. Whatever. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I will actually, in a minute, I'll go do that. And I want you to plant your sequoia tree, and I want you to start your leaf book. Now, the third thing, and the final thing that we're going to do, is that I'm going to encourage your parents to have you do a nature notebook. Now, you have a book like this. This was from my student the other year, Destin. Anyway, he left it. And so, anyway, I should get it back to him. But anyway, what we did each week, parents, when our kids were in the class, was that we did... I gave them a piece of paper like this. We went outside. It's just one of those blank note cards, kind of bigger than regular, but it can be any size. You can even get the kind with lines and just flip it over. But I had them draw something in nature that they saw outside. Now, if it's rainy, which on this particular day it was rainy, and so he drew a starfish. Can you see that? So I brought in a starfish and set it on the table, and they drew the dead starfish. Very pretty animal. But anyway, so... They each time would do that. Here's another one of his that let me see. Anyway, each week we would draw something, and if you are into writing words, like he wrote bush, tree, ants, rock, and then he drew the different ones. And then on this day it was raining, and so he drew the rain clouds. Okay, and he also saw a flying bug, so we put that there. And so anyway, the reason why you do it on the card instead of directly in the book is because sometimes when you're drawing, you'll mess up something, and nobody wants a book that has a page of something messy in it. So that way, if they don't like their drawing, they'll still like their book. And it's fun to glue it in. It also makes it hardier, and then you can have them write whatever words you want on there. But keeping a nature notebook is one way for them to notice what's going on in the world around them, because a lot of science is observation. And so anyway, your kid already has a book like this, and so they can keep doing it as they go through. And if you've ever ascribed to the Charlotte Mason idea of homeschooling, mostly what she wants you to do is to observe what's going on in nature and to draw it when they first begin science. Later they start, learning set of words and memorizing things. But the very basis of it is observation. So that's very cool. I like it. And then years later you have cool drawings. Now this is a nature notebook that I had ordered that my kids went through. My daughter Eden did this one. And it just asks you different things. She didn't do all the pages. Here's one that she didn't do. Spiders or spinners. Anyway, it asks you specific questions. So if you're having trouble knowing how to get started on a nature notebook, but the easiest is just draw something you see outside, and even draw the same thing in the 4 different seasons. Then this one is a real fancy one, which I always wanted to do this, but I've never, had the time or inclination, I guess, to get down. But and do it. But basically, as we draw in observations, I mean, you could get as fancy and complicated as you want. It'll encourage their pencil skills and all that, but also it causes them to see exactly what's going on. And so anyway, I just want to encourage you to have them do the nature notebook, to have them plant their sequoia trees, and to make the leaf book. And I think that's all we're doing this time. Save the seeds and the planter and the potting soil, which I keep calling dirt, but soil is the official word, whatever. Anyway, so we'll save that, and then we can do that next time. So anyway, I hope you have great luck with your science, and I love teaching your kids, and it was really fun. And if they're getting older, I have an older kids science class coming up, also 3rd through 5th grade. So anyway, I just love the science, and if you're interested in ordering any of this stuff, like the like this, you can go to the Learn 365 from Oriental Trading, or just text me or something, and I'll tell you where it's at. So anyway, thank you, and y'all have a good science time. Bye.